What are some of your thoughts on how we can just improve the travel basketball industry in itself, like the tournament environment and make things better for the kids who are our customers?
I have a lot of ideas. However, I just don't see them ever coming into play because the world now is it's so big on like, what's next? Where's the hype? Like as quickly as people scroll through Instagram and TikTok is how quickly people are jumping from team to team. Like I don't have the science behind it, but I believe there's a huge correlation to social media and just like how rotten our brains are and how it correlates to how we are as, individuals that are in the youth sports industry. Everyone from the family, the kid, the coach, everyone is affected by it. But if we're in a perfect world, I would say that the number one thing is that I think basketball needs to be age-based, not grade-based.
You are listening to the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast, transforming athletes into leaders on and off the court with host Coach Furtado.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the travel basketball industry. If you're a parent or a coach in the loop, you know the circuit has become a bit of the Wild West. It's highly transactional, chaotic, and often loses sight of the kids. But our guest today is actively building a solution to that problem. Johny Quachro is the founder of Team Quachro. He's built an incredible program from the ground up. Instead of just chasing sneaker circuits and trophies, he's anchored his entire club around genuine community and character development. Johny, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Justin, thank you very much. I appreciate you reaching out to me. It's always great talking to like-minded operators, and I'm definitely feeling blessed today to be on your podcast.
Right on. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the origin story. So you built, TQ from scratch. Like, what was that process like? Let's take it back to the early days, and then I can ask some questions about how you scaled it.
Yeah. So I started when I was 19 years old, and I think a lot of these youth basketball operators have the same story. They started off training, and parents they reach out, or actually you start building your clientele, and once you do, parents they start asking, hey, you want to put together a team and all this stuff, or you have your own ideas of it. And my origin wasn't anything special. I mean, that's the traditional route that I've seen take place from a majority of these club operators. I think what separated us was, I'll get into it, but we continue to grow. We were at the park. We were a COVID baby. And truthfully, I started out in Huntington Beach, California. And during COVID hours, it was around March. I think we were like legitimately shut down. Every club was shut down for like March, April. And then as soon as like the tiny sliver of regulation was about to be relieved, in Huntington Beach, all these families, they wanted to just kind of throw a mask on and go to the park and train basketball and just train, And so, I was a little skeptical about it, but then at the time I'm 19 years old and I'm like, okay, yeah, like if they're asking me to do it, I'll throw a mask on and I'll get out there and I'll just train these kids. And next thing I know, the word's spreading, and I got like, I'm 3 weeks in and I got a park full of like 20, 25 kids. And now I'm just thinking to myself, what do I do next? Before that, I was helping out at my local feeder program at my high school. And then the pandemic, it shut it down. And so then after that, taking those few kids to go train, created some buzz around the city. And that was the origin story right there.
So you're a COVID baby, right? Obviously, there was a hunger and a desire to get out of the house and train and be active. As you scaled from that 20 to 25 kids, obviously you did a great job of creating a great experience for kids that they told their friends about. What do you think some of the things that you did in the early days made more kids want to come and join you guys?
Yeah. Well, we'll touch on this in a little bit, but these days, a lot of these kids, they're just so focused on, what you said in your intro, the sneaker circuits, the hype and everything like that. What the competitive advantage was for these local club operators during that time was that kids just wanted to play basketball.
Yeah.
Now it's different, right? It's like, they want to get on, all these Nike teams, Adidas teams and all this stuff. But back then it's like, just, COVID's happening. Like, let's just play ball. And, like in my area, that's the main league is the Sunset League. It's Los Alamitos, Huntington Beach, Marina, Edison, and that was my main demographic of kids right here. And I would say that with a mixture of what I was putting out there and a mixture of luck, I was getting all the best players from each of those schools to come and work out with me, play with me in the club. And that itself was the first sign I had that the word was buzzing, the word was spreading, because like something I was doing was working. And the crazy thing is like I was like embarrassed of my age. I was 19, pushing 20 at the time, and I didn't want to tell anybody how old I was, just because I knew it was going to turn some people off. And so I was just making it happen, and creating some noise out there. I don't want to say that my training was better than anyone. I mean, I went hard, just like every trainer does, but I think a mixture of how I was able to connect with the kids, and how I was able to show them things beyond the game, meaning give them advice on certain things or build a human connection with them. And I had a lot of good personalities in my program, and so the combination of that helped get the program running.
That makes a ton of sense. And you're talking about like coaching the human before the athlete, which I feel like is what really makes great coaches, great programs. And diving in, obviously, 7 years later, right, you are one of the biggest programs in Orange County, especially as an independently operated organization. Can you give us the crash course of how you scaled to that from those 20 to 25 kids that you started with in COVID?
Yeah. I mean, number one, I'm going to talk about two different things. Number one, it's the individual, and number two, it's just everything around you.
Yeah.
So number one, the individual, like, every operator, every club coach, whether they like it or not, they have to understand that this is a business. I know it's youth sports and we want to make it about the kids, but you need to treat this as similar to a strict, well-ran, well-oiled business machine as much as you can. And before we even get into that, you have to be in the right mind, and you have to have that, that delusional belief in yourself that you're going to make it happen. I remember when I was getting like I was talking about, having a few kids join my program, some of the best kids in the area, probably had like 20 to 30 kids at this time, a few teams. I was completely delusional. Like, I thought I had it made already. I thought, I had no question in mind that I had the best club in Orange County, even though it wasn't the case. I just completely believed in myself. And the craziest thing is a lot of people can attest to this. Whenever you're making noise, whenever word's spreading around the community, there's going to be a lot of people that hate on you, for lack of better terms. And truthfully, being a 19, 20-year-old at the time, I was hearing a lot of different things from different high school coaches, different club operators, like, who is this kid? What is he doing? Like, he's not going to make it. I was hearing a lot of it, and that itself, it scared me a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but honestly, like, I've always been the type of individual to be like, hey, I'm going to hear this, and, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And so that itself, hearing from club operators that I looked up to as a child, looking at high school coaches, say things about me that just like really threw me off. Like, it definitely naturally pushed me back for a little bit, but after a lot of self-talk and just kind of believing in myself and pushing every day, I was able to continue what I was doing, and a lot of things just came naturally. And so I guess the first thing is just like, if you're thinking about having a club basketball program or starting anything in the youth sports business, like, you have to have some type of delusional belief in yourself that everything's going to work out. And honestly, like, you are already that person. Like I said, I was 19, 20 years old, like, acting like I was the biggest club in Orange County, even though I was far from it. And like, even looking back, like, thinking back to how I was in 2021, like, right now I feel a lot more humble and a lot more grounded. But honestly, like, 21 years old doing all this, like, I can admit, like, I was really freaking cocky. Like, I was like, hey, like, I'm doing this, and this is special. And like, now looking back on it, I was just honestly just like a stupid kid, like, trying to make something happen. And it all eventually worked out. But yeah, that's how I was as an individual in the beginning. And now, if we're going to talk about the whole business, the whole scaling process, I mean, I guess number one, you can't be afraid to delegate when the time is coming, when you feel that itch to say, hey, like, there's so much on my table right now and I can't handle it all. What do I do next? And a lot of people will back up and say, hey, like, I'm just going to take all of it on. And I respect that, push yourself to your limits. But at the end of the day, once you hit a certain ceiling, you're holding yourself back from so many different opportunities because you're too stubborn or you're too scared to take that next step. And so I'll give you an example. There's so many, I guess like starting at a club or starting at the level of, 3 or 4 club teams. There's a lot of club operators that say, hey, I can coach 4 or 5 teams, no problem. But then, once you get to that, or once you start making more buzz and you have like 5 to 10 more kids come in, now you're like, okay, like now there's like a lot on my plate. Am I going to keep coaching these teams, or am I going to make that next step and hire somebody? And the biggest scare that people have is, hey, if I bring somebody on, they might poach my kids. They might leave with my kids, start their own program, or, do whatever it is. I guess my biggest thing was, number one, I was blessed with very good people. Right now we have about 25 coaches on staff. But back in the day when I was, scaling, people naturally kind of gravitated towards TQ because I guess they saw, what we're about. And we had a lot of really solid coaches come in and, help us scale the teams. And I look back on it and I reflect sometimes and I say, hey, like, why did that work out? Why did they trust this 21-year-old kid at the time? Because I'm working with guys 2 to 3 times my age. And honestly, it's because, I think the biggest thing is they saw that I was willing to make this like a win-win relationship. I think this is a pro tip for a lot of the operators out there. You have to trust that the coaches coming in, number one, aren't going to take your kids. Like that has to be the mindset. And if they do, it's because there's something wrong with your program internally. That's my mindset. Because like I had 25 coaches right now on staff, probably about 45 coaches in total along the years. And I want to say only, not even one, maybe one of them has done me dirty. And I really think it's because I was really focused on taking care of each coach as an individual. And I'll give you guys a couple examples. So I like when my coaches that come in are trainers and they try to pursue basketball full time. Because I try to tell them, hey, like, what can I do to be a supplement to you? I don't expect these coaches to, make a complete living wage off of coaching 1 or 2 teams for my program. But I can tell them, hey, like, how can I supplement you? And how can we build this trust together? And how can we build this win-win relationship? And so like, I would have coaches come in and high quality coaches, high quality trainers come in and I'd say, hey, coach this team. And, after a month or 2 of retaining it, I'm going to connect you with all these parents individually, and you can train them all you want on the side, offer your training, and you can, do whatever you want with them, as long as you're still coaching for me. And we have this verbal agreement that you're not going to poach these kids. And, just kind of staying aligned with that and doing it over and over again with so many different coaches. I've been able to build build the relationship with all these coaches that trust me and I trust them. And we know that we won't do each other dirty. And so, I think that was a really big step in scaling from 2 to 3 teams that I was coaching myself to having, I think, a team high of 38 teams this year, all under one roof. And so that was, I think that's a little pro tip for these coaches, because I've had coaches come to me saying, hey, I'm a trainer. Is that a problem? And I tell them, no, I like that. And they tell me, oh, I went to program over here and they said, or they turned me away because I told them that I have my own personal brand training. Oh, I have my own thing over here. And I said, hey, we're the opposite. We're going to welcome that. We're going to help nourish it. And in return, we hope for some trust. We hope for some loyalty, and we hope for some effort. And so that was, a really big piece for us.
That's huge. And there's obviously, you just gave us a lot of wisdom within that in terms of creating win-win relationships. And I do the same thing with my coaches. Like, I want to create as many opportunities for you to make money. I know what I'm paying you is not going to be able to pay all your bills unless you got a ton of different roommates and your costs are really low. But we live in Southern California. So I want to help you make more money. And I really like the way that you're approaching it. Can you talk about, I know this is something new for me because last year was the first year I managed 4 coaches. The first year was 2 and now it's 6. So it's like slowly, growing in terms of what I'm managing. I know that I personally have had to shift in terms of the way I just think and operate on a daily basis. Right now I'm a leader. Now, not only do I coach players, I coach coaches, and that's been a transition for me. Can you talk about how you've shifted your mindset and how you invested in yourself to become a better leader for your coaches, for your program?
Yeah. I mean, just when I was first starting, just to be truthful. And like some of the coaches that are with me to this day that started with me, they probably don't even know this, but I was super scared to manage these coaches because, you know, I'm 19, 20 years old, coming out of high school, junior college, and thinking like, why are these guys listening to me? And I'm just like, I guess, you know, the popular term people use these days is imposter syndrome, you know, like I had tons of it. And at the end of the day, I just had to like eat the anxiety up, eat the pit in my stomach up, and just swallow it and just kind of keep managing these guys. And through those experiences, there's so many ups and downs, and I was really just learning as I went. And so a big takeaway is, number one, because they aren't doing this as a full-time job. I mean, now I have a couple guys on staff that are like, hey, like they actually do this for full-time because like we've created like different streams of revenue that help supplement them full-time. But I want to say that's only 2 out of 25 people that we have. And right. So the rest of them, it's really hard to keep certain coaches on track because, you know, they get a monthly stipend and they're like, hey, like I might be able to get away with this. And, you know, like Johnny's not going to fire me because, you know, he needs me. And honestly, the biggest thing I shifted towards when, you know, that started happening was, number one, like I set the tone from day one, saying like, hey, like this is what we need to do. This is what I expect. And then if they didn't follow it, we'd have a serious conversation about it. There's been many times where I've had to get into it with my coaches. You know, I held them to a very high standard, and there were very many uncomfortable talks. And they were uncomfortable because, you know, a lot of things are uncomfortable. A lot of things create anxiety between you when you're managing coaches because there's a lot of uncertainty. Like, hey, they're going to leave. Are they going to be mad? Are they going to, you know, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you know, I've shifted my mindset over the last couple of years to say, hey, every uncomfortable conversation that we have, every time that we get into it, we're going to come out better. Because every time I've had a conversation like that, even if it was with a family, even if it was with a coach, I want to say 90% of the time, it always ends up better. And I actually get closer to the individual than I was before. And if, you know, it's a 10% of the time where, like, you know, the coach gets pissed off or the parent gets pissed off and they just leave, then it is what it is. Our values didn't align. And honestly, that creates more clarity for me. And it allows me to bring more people in that are more aligned with my vision. And so that itself is a blessing. And so I don't see these managing, or I don't see managing coaches and having these difficult conversations as a bad thing anymore. I like when people bring up to me, hey, like, I don't like this, or they show me that they're not capable of doing this, because now I can attack it. And after I attack it, if it still doesn't make sense, then now I have the clarity that I need.
That's great. I mean, that's a really profound approach in terms of shifting your mindset. And I think there's a lot of wisdom within, like, okay, we're going to have this conversation. If they're not on board, that's okay, right? They can go coach somewhere else. If it's a parent, they can go and then, you know, participate in another club. So with that being said, I'd love to shift the gears towards the parents, because honestly, you know, part of being an operator is managing the parents. And you talk about how, as you've scaled teams, what are some of the consistent conversations you are having with parents, and how do you guys address them within your program?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just like, I mean, these conversations, they stay true to every program, but like the conversation shifts based on the type of program that you are. And so the general questions that you're always going to get are, you know, about playing time. Those are huge. And then like on the back end, you know, as we scale as operators, you know, you're going to get issues with, you know, uniforms or, you know, just the traditional stuff. Right. And so that's a given. But my program, how it was in 2020 to like 2022, 2023 is so different than what it was 2024 till present. I would say in the beginning, and, you know, how it scaled initially was, hey, we would just take whatever kid that came into the door that had talent, and we wouldn't look at the family as a whole. And so that was good because, you know, we would have, you know, cool Instagram posts and highlights because these kids were flashy and really, really talented. And with that comes, or with those pros come a lot of cons. And a lot of operators can also relate to this when I say, hey, just because the kid is good doesn't mean they're going to be good for your program. And so what I find is a lot of these kids that get good at an early age, their parents have a really high standard for them, for their kids, and it puts a lot of pressure on the coaches and operators. And so those conversations become super difficult. And for example, like if the parent will just completely lash out, like I've had kids join my program and after only one tournament, they were upset because their kid only got up 6 shots in a game. And, I get that phone call on Monday and like my eyes are just kind of rolling, but I'm like, hey, like I'm going to listen to you out because I know that this is deeper than me or you. It's about the kid. And so like I always try to hear every parent out. But some of these conversations that we get are like ridiculous. It's really just about like I've got into it like nose to nose with families because like they've come up to my bench and they've come up to my coaches' benches and said things like in front of the kids where like I just have to completely put them in check on the spot just because like I feel like there's no other way to handle it in that situation because they're already being like belligerent. And that was like the 2022 to 2024. Like I've had parents like cuss at me or other coaches like across the sideline and like pull their kid mid-game. As we learned how to build community, as we learn how to build culture, it still happens every once in a while. I mean, it's a given in club basketball because it's such an intense environment, but those conversations are very less common. Now it's more like, hey, I work with families that are like, hey, like something happened, but like I'll wait a couple days and like, can we schedule a call about like what happened in that game? Like, why did we lose that? Why did we do that? And I'll happily have those conversations because if we don't have these conversations, these feelings as human beings, they're going to bottle up anyway. So like these operators, like I see on Instagram all the time or like just like scrolling through social media, like there's coaches complaining about parents saying this, parents saying that. And it's a funny topic because like I catch myself doing it too. But at the end of the day, if parents are willing to express things to you, it's actually a blessing because, you're able to have that open line of conversation, open line of communication, and you guys can, get through it together. And so my whole point being is as we shifted into these last couple of years, I've been able to focus more on the team aspect of it and really structure what is expected of each kid and each family. And so that there's no confusion. And so then when parents are upset, I could say, hey, like, this is our expectation.
Yeah.
We are ready to discuss this. And if you're not aligned with it, then it is what it is, but we're going to help you out. Like we're going to try to get through this together. And so, yeah, like I hear ridiculous things all the time to this day. Like, hey, like my kid doesn't like the kids on my team or the kids on my kids team, they're not working as hard as my kid. Or like I'll get like I can't even like there's just so many, Justin. There's so many that I just can't like put them all out there right now. But yeah, the conversations day to day. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, they do give me anxiety, just like I know they do for other operators as well.
I appreciate you sharing that, your transparency on that. Obviously, I like your perspective on it though, in terms of, parents are thinking these things. You would rather have them talk with you and have an honest, open dialogue versus like them harboring those, then becoming resentment and, going on
Exactly.
and on. I do feel like there is obviously benefit to what you're talking about in terms of, making, hey, these are the standards, this is our expectations. And I'm curious, as you've scaled to 38 different teams, is there like a style of play? Is there like expectations you give to your coaches on what earns play time and what not within your program? Like, and then how do you communicate that specifically with the parents?
Yeah. I mean, every coach is different that we have. And I think that I don't like to create the structure of, hey, every team needs to play similarly because every kid is different. Every coach is different. And I feel like why we've been able to retain so many coaches is because I give the coaches freedom and I don't really hop in unless I need to, meaning, parents are complaining, parents are dropping, there's a obvious visible reason that, things aren't going well. And so I just tell my coaches, like, you just have to give your all and you have to have some type of structure. You know your guys better than me. Like it's impossible for me to manage 300 kids and their personalities. And so like, I can't come in and tell them how to coach and do their job. But I'll definitely, tap in with them and I'll let them know when, like if there's something going wrong, like I'll definitely go sit at a game and I'll watch and I'll see what's going on and I'll listen to the families and I'll listen to the coaches' concerns. But yeah, I'm always going to be letting my coaches have the leeway to, coach how they want because I trust them and we have that mutual respect for each other.
Yeah, autonomy is huge. I think that's one thing that I learned last year. I was probably too hands-on. Like I was at everything. I would like jump in. I would like coach from the bench. And I had a couple conversations where they're like, who's coaching this game? Right. Mm-hmm. And because, obviously, we come from a place of like coaching. We love the game of basketball. It's our baby. But this year I was very much like, when I'm at practice, because I have a hard time like assistant coaching, I'll just be on the sideline and watch, and maybe I'll hop in here and there. But similar to you, I think realizing that just empowering my coaches, giving them feedback after is much more effective than trying to coach and take over their teams, because then coaches will end up leaving. I'd like to shift gears a little bit and just talk about the travel basketball industry. You're also a tournament operator. So I love to, kind of gear this conversation around what are some of the things that you all do as tournament operators that you feel like differentiate yourselves from other operators, and then what's best for the kids, because obviously it's a very hot topic in travel ball world, right? You see all the crazy parents and whatnot. So I'd just love to hear your perspective.
Yeah well, I mean, there's a huge conversation pinning together business versus youth sports, because business is business, it's cutthroat, and then youth sports is this wholesome breath of fresh air, and so putting those two together is obviously going to create such a difficult dynamic. And so, you hear a lot of things like, oh, like this program, they're money grabbers. They just want to take your money. They just want to do this. But like, I just want to give these families a news flash. Like, nothing operates without money. Like, you have to have capital in order to, produce, quality for the kids. And so with that being said, you can make money while making an impact, like, because at the end of the day, like we do a decent job, and a lot of it goes back to the kids, and we give so much to the kids. Like, we have so many kids on scholarship, and so many kids from area. Because we're at the MAP Sports Facility in Garden Grove. That's our main hub. We also have things in Fullerton and Irvine and whatnot. But like, our main hub is in Garden Grove. So we're pulling not only kids from Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, Los Alamitos, some more affluent neighborhoods, but we're also pulling from Lakewood, Long Beach, Westminster, Garden Grove, Buena Park. And so we get a little bit of everything. And so like, there's so many kids that we have to help take care of, and we have no problem doing it, because at the end of the day, we just want to help provide these experiences. But with that being said, we have to have the capital to help take care of these kids. We can't just keep having these kids, come in and have all these discounts and scholarships and whatnot. It has to come from something. And so with that being said, yeah, we definitely got into the tournament game a few years ago, and we have done a good job scaling it. We're not like Made Hoops or Grassroots 365 and those heavy hitters, but we are at the table with them. We do have conversations. We do have strategic collaborations, strategic partnerships with a lot of different operators. And at the end of the day, it only helps our program. It helps the kids out even more, because I just think as youth basketball operators, a lot of them say, hey, like, I'm only going to stick to the teams because I stay true to the game. Hey, I'm not a money grabber. I'm not this. But at the end of the day, I believe that you're doing yourself, or not yourself. Let me rephrase that. You are doing your kids and families a disservice if you aren't treating your program like a business that has all these different revenue streams. Because if you're not bringing in the capital, you're unable to produce high quality experiences for your program. And so we have so many events throughout the year where I don't make the parents pay a single dime. And we put on these events that just really create community and really like just allow the kids to get to know each other and have a blast. Like, we put on an event every November. It's one of our, it's called Media Day. Everyone does Media Day. But at the end of the day, like, we have a huge Media Day at a place called Rodeo 39. They're one of our sponsors, and they're right behind the MAP Sports Facility. They have a beautiful facility with a bunch of different restaurants in it, and they just have they sponsor us to come in and bring our whole program in. So we'll have about 350 people in there, and like, it's just like the day where, hey, we're saying we're starting the club season, and these are all the kids in our program, all the families in our program. Let's mingle, let's meet each other. And let's go have a really good year together. And so without events like that, without community-based events, your program is only going to get so far, because, your program needs to stand for something. And, your program needs to feel like, hey, like, we have each other's backs, and it's deeper than just me. And so when I do tournaments, people always say, hey, like, tournaments are money grabbers, like, $25 admission, it's crazy and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're able to make an impact and you're able to give back to your community, I really don't see anything wrong with it, just because, you are doing something bigger than yourself. And so, yeah, I don't know if I got sidetracked there, but I was just kind of like,
No, I
talking
mean,
about,
I have
yeah.
similar thoughts and conversations, honestly, with myself, because obviously it's a really hot topic. It's in the, there are certain bills that are on the docket to get passed to have, private equity out. And for me, like, if I actually think about it, private equity has no effect on my costs. Now, my costs, like the cost of everything has gone up. The cost of coffee this morning when I went out and met someone, I was like, it's ridiculous, so the cost of everything have gone up. Obviously the cost of youth sports have gone up. It's about figuring out a way to lower those costs for those that can't afford to be able to play. And I love that you guys do scholarships. We do as well, because at the end of the day, like, we are in this to make an impact on kids, but like you said, we need capital to be able to do so.
Yeah. And then, I mean, since day one, I mean, it's crazy because in the youth sports game, private equity is actually coming in to make an impact. Like, I've had a handful of private equity companies come in and say, hey, like, let me take over your or let us fund your program. And then, like, like you run it, but like, we'll buy you out and everything like that. I've had the conversation, 4 or 5 different times. And, yeah, I mean, I don't see myself going that route anytime soon, but there has to be some type of boost that helps us. And so getting into the tournament game definitely helps supplement the program in a huge way.
For sure. And that makes a ton of sense. What are some of the, I don't want to say regulations. What are some of the differences you have? Because I definitely have thoughts around how we can improve the travel basketball experience. What are some of your thoughts on how we can just improve the travel basketball industry in itself, like the tournament environment, and make things better for the kids who are our customers?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. However, I just don't see them ever coming into play because the world now is it's so big on, like, what's next? Where's the hype? Like, as quickly as people scroll through Instagram and TikTok is how quickly people are jumping from team to team. Like, I don't have the science behind it, but I believe there's a huge correlation to social media and just like how rotten our brains are and how it correlates to how we are as, individuals that are in the youth sports industry. Everyone from the family, the kid, the coach, everyone is affected by it. But if we're in a perfect world, I would say that the number one thing is that I think basketball needs to be age-based, not grade-based. It's never going to happen. It's just like it's getting worse and worse every year. Like, kids are reclassifying left and right, and it's become normal. Like, as of the last couple of years, this is the first time I've had to ask kids and reach out and say, hey, are you going to reclass this year? Because, like, I can tell that they might be like feeling that type of energy, and like, I don't know, maybe they feel like they're behind, and like they've hinted at it. So I have to open that conversation up, because now we have to help guide these kids through that process. As to before, it was like, oh, like 1 out of 50 kids are going to do it.
Right.
Now it's like, I have probably this year, like 10 kids that are going to reclass. And it's like, okay, like, instead of thinking of it as a negative thing, now, like, it's just normal. We have to accept it. And so, like, how do we help them, get through this process? And so, with that being said, like, if I were to change the game, it'd be age-based, just so that we could have an even playing field, because I see so many families get belligerently angry when they believe that there's a kid that is older playing in a certain division. And at the end of the day, the rules and regulations, they allow it because, it's grade-based. You could have a 13-year-old play 6th grade, and I guess you'll never know these days. And then these birth certificates, they're so easy to fake. And so, like, even the cleanest of the clean organizations, tournament operators, like, you can still get past it. It's just unfortunate these days, and it's just our norm. But yeah, I think the biggest thing would be age-based, just so that, like, because with being grade-based now, these kids are holding back, and like, you see the top divisions at these national tournaments, and it's literally just like the top 14U division is just all 15U kids. And so, it's just, however we can fix that would be my cup of tea. But I think it's just too exciting for the families and too exciting for these kids to be in those top ranked tournaments and do all and top ranked camps. And so, yeah, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
No. And I'm honestly kind of old school when it comes to like, I'm not super deep into social media. I'm always just like, why do you care so much? But at the end of the day, right, that's where they get value from. That's what is like social media, right? If you play at these big tournaments, you get big time exposure, right? That is our new social pecking order. And right, what do we do?
Yeah.
We're designed as human beings to want to get that attention and want to be accepted within society. This is a new society. We have to
Yeah.
operate
And
with it. And so,
yeah, and I've seen people try to combat it before. I mean, like a lot of people know Jordan Lally. He's a big trainer out of Australia, and he had a facility in Irvine. But yeah, Jordan Lally, he started his Team Yaya, and I remember them reaching out to me and just kind of like giving me the rundown about it. But he was basically saying like club basketball is all types of messed up, and like we're gonna be like one of the guys that are like gonna try to fight against it. And so I guess what their thing was is like, hey, we're gonna train 4 to 5 times a week, and then we're only gonna play like once a month or like one game a weekend. And like all love to Jordan. Maybe he just got like super busy, but I just think that it eventually fell apart. And like I really love the concept. But like the feedback that I was getting from families were, we're not getting enough games in, and we're not like just so many different things. And like I'm just like, well, didn't you know what you signed up for? Like it was like, hey, like let's train more than we play type of thing. Let's not go to the big tournaments. Let's just like stay in house and let's invite teams in. But then at the end of the day, it's just like there's not enough programs that are aligned with that. So like I just don't see it lasting. Which is why the money makers now are in like Made Hoops, like these huge circuit events that you can just have a huge platform for. And yeah, that's just how it is these days.
Yeah, I'm honestly in the similar realm of Jordan in terms of like I'm curious. I want to ask you, what do you think like the right amount of games should be for a kid per month? Because I go through it and I'm sometimes like, these kids, they don't even play hard by game 4, especially if they're not in a championship game. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
too much supply of games that like it's in excess. Like I actually see my kids play harder when we only play 1 to 2 games on a weekend. But then, right, are they going to go
Yeah.
jump to another club team that plays more games, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of have to try and meet the demand where they're at while you're trying to, be more of like the European style development of practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you on that, Justin. And I have a number that I always tell my kids. I say 25. And they all know that's how many games that they get in a high school season. And I always bring that number up because I always tell them, you guys are so numb to the game because you're playing every damn weekend. And if it's not with me, it's with somebody else. And like, you guys are just so numb to it. And I want you guys to understand that if you take these games for granted in high school, you're going to regret it big time. Like you're not just representing a club right now. You can't just go from club to club, or you can't go from school to school just like you go club to club, even though people do transfer like that these days. But I mean, it's like now it's like all this paperwork, you got to sit 30 days. You got to, live with the public shame of transferring 4 times. Like, it's like, and so like with club basketball, it's not like that at all. Like, it's like as soon as things go wrong, it's like, hey, let me just jump ship. And so we're just like so overstimulated by everything these days. And yeah, it's I guess the only solution I have for it is just reiterating it in conversation. Like I always tell my kids, 25 games, that's all you get. You're going to waste 1 game right now. Like if this was a game that, just imagine the stands are packed. Imagine you're representing your city. Imagine you have to walk around school the next day knowing that you didn't give your best effort and you lost the game by 20. Like just imagine all those things and try to put it into this game. I don't have an exact solution for it because I really felt what you said right now. Like I probably have this conversation every weekend. Like by game 3, like the kids are just like, hey, like if we're not going to compete for the championship, like we're not going to get in the stands and play defense anymore. We're not going to, run back. We're not going to sprint back. We're not going to run the floor. We're not going to cheer for our teammates on the bench. Like it is what it is, So it's definitely a really difficult thing.
Yeah, and obviously it's not going to be solved overnight, right? It's becoming a huge problem. Honestly, one of my kind of thoughts on it is like I feel like the only way that the travel basketball would really change and manipulate would be if the NBA got involved and was like, we're going to run, our tournaments. They need to be sanctioned. Because one of my other questions is going to be, and I know we're running out of time here, is, you see a lot of coaches, right, on the, circuits, tournaments. One of my biggest things is I do believe there needs to be more coach education, and that we need to really do a better job vetting the adults that are leading our young people.
Yeah. I mean, you can start anyone and their grandma can start a club basketball program these days. I mean, I'm an example too. I mean, I started when I was 19, and like I'm not gonna front and do all that, but I would say that through the years of experience and through the mentorship and the training and my own, personal work, I do feel like I'm able to give a good experience to the kids now based on, the experiences that I've been through. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely an issue where, there's a lack of training and a lack of understanding of what it actually takes to help kids not just get to the next level, but actually be good human beings. And yeah, it's definitely a difficult thing. So, I mean, I guess was your question more so like, what do we do about this? Or
Yeah, just general thoughts. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be able to solve it right away. I just
yeah.
I get really disappointed when I see some of the adults that work with young people and just how those young people end up behaving on a team because they're following that leader. It's just that to me, obviously, most of coaches and most the people that work with kids do really want to help and make an impact. It's just there are those few bad apples, and I just feel like there's no real regulation
Yeah.
in the travel basketball industry.
Yeah. And I mean, the worst part about it is, the worst type of youth basketball coach is the coach that is living through their kids.
Yep.
And so like, you'll find that, these coaches, they like to snap back and forth at each other. Like just from my personal experience, I mean, it happens almost every weekend where there's a coach or like something happens on the court that has nothing to do with me. And then the coach is like, you're teaching your kids to do this. And I'm like, the kids are just playing and like nothing was intentional. And like, now you want to start something with me. Like you want to get into it with me. And yeah, no, I mean, there's so many people that are insecure and doing this because they want to feed their insecurities of, hey, like I didn't play the game at a high level and I don't feel good about myself. Now I'm going to live through my kids and I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to, get into it with people and act a fool. And, it's definitely a big issue.
For sure. I'm guessing most of the people that are listening to this episode, though, are not the coaches that are the problem. So as we wrap up this show, what are some final thoughts from your perspective as an operator or a coach to some of the parents that are listening on how we can continue to improve the travel basketball industry and make an impact on kids? And then where can people find and connect with you on social media and your website?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we need to keep preaching is community, number one, and growth. Yeah, community and growth is huge because the training is a given. Like we're going to have to help these kids develop, but the biggest thing is like the human to human connection that we have with these kids, whether you believe it or not. I mean, it's definitely a huge thing, but a lot of these coaches, they forget how much of an impact you actually have on these kids from a neurological standpoint. And like I have my moments where I'm just completely going in on a kid, but at the end of the day, like they stay with me because I also balance it with, hey, like you're doing a good job here. Like, oh, you're really important to us in this way. Like I have to make sure, and I make sure all my coaches make sure that, hey, if we're going to tear a kid down, you also have to build them back up twice as hard, And so that's number one. And then for all the club operators out there that are trying to make it happen, the number one thing is, community and being authentic with what you're trying to build. I mean, Team Quachro, it's my last name. What even is that, honestly, right? I mean, day one, that is not a brandable name. It's not, it's not known by anybody. And now fast forwarding 7 years, I would say, in the Orange County area and pushing LA and Inland Empire, now it's a staple in a lot of communities. And so don't ever let anybody tell you like what you're doing isn't achievable. It's not going to go anywhere, because so many people have told me that in the past, and I just kind of stuck through it. I branded everything how it was meant to be branded. I pushed past people that were telling me so many different negative things. And so like, I just want everyone out there, the operators that are listening, to just completely neglect every negative thought that you have and every negative thing that is being said to you, and just put your head down, build what you're building, do it the right way, and things will naturally work out for you.
I really appreciate that. I feel like we're just scratching the surface on everything. So we may have to do another episode at some point, but I really appreciate your time today, Johny.
Yeah, Justin, I really appreciate what you're building. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm definitely looking forward to our future conversations.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend, coach, or parent you feel like would get value from this episode. It's our responsibility to impact as many parents and coaches who are the ones that are impacting our athletes. That's how we create a ripple effect. So thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to serving you all next week.